Hello, good night. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. Go ahead and put your questions in the comments now. And as you're putting your questions in the comments, I just have a few updates that I want to give you. Now, we have, as usual, a lot of things are going on with immigration. However, I've seen some notable changes that I want you to know about. So one is that we just saw there's a memo that was released by ICE on February 18th of this year. And ICE they are now saying that anybody who entered the country as a refugee, if you didn't apply for the green card within a year of gaining refugee status, must report to ICE or be detained in order to be reevaluated and rescreened again. So this means once again that they are giving themselves more authority to arrest refugees, people who enter the country legally, who are here on refugee status, but who just didn't apply for their green card within 1 year. So if you are a refugee here and you've had your status for less than a year, make sure that you are looking at applying for adjustment of status to get your permanent residence. If not, still make sure you have legal advice. You get legal advice about any circumstances that you may be facing so that we can find solutions. If not us, make sure you're talking to an immigration attorney. Here in Florida, the Florida has created their own board of immigration, so state board of immigration here. And I believe right now they're the first state to do that. And they are very active in immigration enforcement. So how are they active in immigration enforcement in Florida? They are working very closely with law enforcement. So even individuals who are being stopped in traffic stops here in Florida, if the officer suspects that you may not have your papers, what I have been seeing is they go ahead and they're coordinating directly with ICE, calling ICE to come, and this could be for very simple things. This could be for broken tailgates, just any very speeding tickets. They go ahead and detain and wait for ICE to pick them up. I'm seeing this. It's very prevalent in Florida. So make sure that you are very much taking precautions as you're going out on the road. You understand, especially in Florida, you understand the risk involved. But what's going on in Florida now? So we have a couple of pending types of laws, crazy laws that are being proposed. But they've issued over $40 million to be able to conduct immigration enforcement. So that's a huge sum of money that they're dedicating only to immigration enforcement. So what they're doing is they're providing a lot of funding to mostly rural counties in Florida. So most of the funding went to rural counties where they are buying equipment that prepare them for enforcement actions, but also helps them to safely and better detain immigrants. So, for example, they have things like, I believe, armor. Go figure, because a majority of immigrants that are being detained don't have criminal records. But this is what they are spending a lot of the money doing here in Florida. So please be mindful of that, and just know that that is evidence that they're not joking here in Florida in regards to working with law enforcement to detain undocumented immigrants. Now, the other one, I did release a video on this, and this is about immigrants having bank accounts. Now, across the country, immigrants can have bank accounts, but it doesn't matter the immigration status. Different banks have different policies, but usually banks usually want to, sometimes they don't require SSN, sometimes they require an ITIN. It just depends on the bank. But they're never going to sit down and verify your immigration status in the bank. That's not their job, that they're not required to follow those rules. However, it is now being reported that the Trump administration, they are looking at potentially issuing executive orders, because executive orders are now, I guess, law. It shouldn't be, but because of the inactivity of Congress right now, where Congress isn't really stepping in to limit these executive orders, once these executive orders are issued, it really goes to court, to litigation, to fight these and to fight the validity of these executive orders. And so they are now considering executive orders, or an executive order that would require banks to now check the immigration status of their customers. And the goal of this, of course, is to be able to locate those who don't have. Now, one, to instill fear in immigrants, once again, to just tighten the vice on immigrants, right? Because once people are asking for immigration status, like hospitals, like banks, it means that immigrants become afraid about what these institutions are doing with that information. And so they don't show up, they don't open bank accounts, they take their money out, or they don't show up for care when it comes to the hospital. And so that is one of the purposes of this. But also, nothing has been disclosed about how this information would be given, what would be collected, whether they would be required to hand over this information to the administration. But what the whole goal is to find and locate undocumented immigrants, put the pressure on, and then also locate undocumented immigrants. Now, this isn't law, so I don't want anybody to panic. I don't want anybody to go pulling money out of the bank. This is not law. This is just something, it's in the news, and there are reports, and it's in major news outlets that they are considering this. And this is definitely not outside of their scope, but it has not been announced or confirmed by the administration that they're doing this. But stay tuned. I will keep you posted if this is something that ends up getting implemented. You will definitely hear it from me. So those are some of the notable changes that are happening. And of course, as usual, there's the constant escalation of immigration enforcement that is always there right now. So it's all about finding solutions for your particular case. Now that I've told you what's going on the immigration side of things, the immigration policy side of things, and of course, it's a State of the Union tonight, and we can expect immigration is one of the major platforms for this president, and so that means that we will certainly either hear some announcements or some celebrations. So we're definitely gonna hear about immigration at the State of the Union. So if anything notable comes up, I will definitely let you know as well. All right. Any updates? Is there any update to the TPS for Haitians? No. So, well, the update is, and it's good news. For example, in Florida, Haitians have been cleared to go and renew their driver's license. So, and since the court has extended the TPS, it means that those Haitian citizens who have TPS can go and do things like extend the driver's license. It means your work authorization is still valid. So you should be making that case to your employer. Your employment authorization is still valid, right? Until I know they appeal the decision. We have to see what the the appeals court says there, but for now it is extended by the court, and the government has to abide by that. So I'm on TikTok, right? I'm on Instagram answering questions. So let me see. I'm just gonna answer some questions here. So I guess there's a question here about who is an undocumented immigrant. So whenever we talk about someone who's undocumented, it means there is no formal legal status. It's as simple as that. Whether you overstayed your visa or you're waiting for a benefit, and as a result of waiting for the benefit, at this time you don't have any formal official status, then you can be put in an undocumented category. Of course, the kind of problems that you're going to be facing is going to really depend on your particular circumstances. For example, there are some immigrants who have never applied for immigration benefits. And in that case, it's about finding what options can work for them. Whereas you do have some immigrants that are here, they didn't necessarily overstay. They applied for a benefit, but they've been waiting for years, for example, for asylum. And in that case, you are going about in a legal way, but at this point, you don't have official status. So I would say that you are on the way to a solution, but you're still in that gray area where you don't have an official status. Hi there, Neville. It's nice to see you. I was banned from the USA. Can I come back? I want to come to my son's graduation. There are options available. So, for example, there are special waivers. I don't know what if your son is a US citizen or if your son is here on a visa. The solution for you and whether you qualify for that solution is going to depend on it's going to depend on your particular situation. So that's where talking to us and seeing if there's a solution is going to be key. I had a green card that is expired. My father was already a US citizen when he filed for my green card, and I was a minor. I was told that I'm a US citizen and I need to file for citizenship. Yes, no, I cannot confirm that. I'm not your attorney, but get on it. You need to have proof of citizenship, and there is a way to do that. So there are two ways that you would be able to do that. You can do that by applying for your passport, believe it or not, and better yet, applying for a certificate of citizenship. So those are two ways that you'd be able to do it. Sometimes and I can bet now, especially, you apply for the passport, you may come by some obstacles. So applying for a certificate of citizenship it's a more expensive path, but it may be the better and more solid path. Get on it. We help our clients to get that. So get on it, give us a call, and we can talk it through. I want a divorce, but I don't know how to start it. So I'm not a divorce attorney, but that would definitely start in your court, usually in your court in the county that you're in. There are ways you consult a divorce attorney or a family attorney to get started on that process in your county. Now, we do immigration law, which means we represent clients in all 50 states. However, when it comes on to family law, criminal law, mostly every other type of law, you have to talk to your state attorney or an attorney that's licensed in your state. All right. Hello there. Hi, Lotfi on Facebook. Okay, I'm on TikTok, so go ahead and put your questions in the comments. Thanks so much for the love. I appreciate it on TikTok. Son is 3 out of the US for 2 years without re-entry permit. Can he return? He has a green card. So your son is going to face the same obstacle as anybody else. However, there he can apply. So there are two approaches, and it really is very strategic. Really has to depend on very specific facts in your case. One is I've had clients that they've come, and I'm not saying you to do one action or the other because it really comes down to talking this through. But one is to get to the United States and enter with an explanation for why it took that long, or to apply for a special type of re-entry visa to come back into the US. So, which one is going to work for you is going to depend a lot on circumstances and risk right now and current policy. Because another thing is, when the officers at the border at the airport, they are looking out for green card holders who have been outside of the country for a long time. To now, green card holders, the rule is usually you can come into the country. They will then refer you to removal proceedings for abandonment of the green card. So, looking at the various possibilities and planning for those is going to be key here. So get in touch with us, talk to us, and let's talk about the various avenues. Why are people who DQ after me already getting interviews in Juarez? So I wouldn't, it just depends on circumstances, particular circumstances. I wouldn't be able to tell you that. How long after will I get the receipt when you file to remove conditions for a green card? So it can take anywhere, I say anywhere from 2 weeks, can even be to 4 months, but I'm seeing typically for this about 2 weeks. How long after will I get the receipt when you, okay, so I answered that. If you have a removal order in the USA and you appeal, will you be caught by ICE? So what I will say here is legal remedies. I don't know your situation and I definitely can't advise you, but generally that's my job. My job is to pursue legal avenues and solutions for my clients, right? And in a case like this, where you do have a removal order, it means that once you are picked up by ICE and you have a removal order, you can be shipped out of the country in a matter of hours, right? Having a process in place can help you to appeal it, get your case reopened, to defend yourself, to have the removal order reconsidered. But whether appeal is right is once again going to come down to, do you have any recourse? Do you have any avenues to be able to do that? So what you need to start with is investing in talking to an immigration attorney so that you can understand what your options are. How long does it take for removal of conditions in the state of Texas? So it varies. I wouldn't necessarily say state of Texas. So it's not really state by state. I would say it's based on the date that you've applied and whether you have everything in order. So we did have a client in Texas who got an approval in a year and a half. And that's because the case was very strong. We prepared a very solid case so that there were no questions about whether our client qualified. So she was qualified very quickly. And this was an I-751 waiver as well, where we had to submit a waiver based on divorce and based on mistreatment. However, that's not to say everybody's going to be approved in Texas in a year and a half. It really depends on how well your application is put together and the current processing time. Unfortunately, current processing times right now could be up to 4 years. We just got a removal of conditions approved, and it did take 3 years to get that approved. So it really differs. It just depends. What I would say, here's a tip you need to know about. If you are applying without the spouse in a removal of conditions, then you can, and you qualify for a waiver, a special waiver to do that, then you can apply right now. You don't have to wait on your card to expire or be close to expiration or to be within the 90 days of expiration to apply. So make sure you're on top of that. You're moving forward with that process if you're applying without the spouse, because you can actually give yourself a head start. And I think in the case with our client who was approved, that's what happened as well. Our client got a head start because she was able to apply, I believe, a year and a half before her card expired. How much is initial EAD application? So how much is for an asylee? So I would have to check the fees. My team usually verifies the fees, so I'd have to check with that. There are ways to check though. If you go to the I-751 form on USCIS, you'd be able to see what the current fee is for work permits. Hello there on Facebook and YouTube. Hi there, Damien. It's nice to see you. Does everyone who files for VAWA, will they get an RFE? I wouldn't say, no, the rule isn't everybody gets an RFE. And getting an RFE doesn't even necessarily mean that things are going all wrong in your case. It means that they have questions. We've gotten simple RFEs, something as simple as we need a birth certificate to finish up this VAWA case, or a marriage certificate or a divorce decree, because maybe they've lost it in the file. And then it has gotten more complicated where now they ask more questions about with the bona fide relationship or the mistreatment. Or in that case, we really have to look at the RFE, read it carefully, and then be able to address it. But I would say an RFE is really also a chance. Usually you overcome the RFE, it means that that officer is going to grant it if you overcome it. So I would say just make sure you are prepared. And that is one of the reasons or advantages of having our clients retain us, is we are there for our clients even when a request for evidence comes in. So our clients we don't just file things and then leave our clients hanging. If we do get a request for evidence, we do take care of it. We work with the client to address it depending on what immigration wants. So just another tip, guys, that's why it's important to have an attorney, because RFEs can come, and an RFE doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to lose your case. But if you don't know how to approach the RFE, you're going to lose your case. How long is the T visa taking? So I would say about 2 years. We are applying for special types of bona fide work permits. We're noticing those are delayed, but they do come at about the 8-month to 12-month mark. My cousin has won asylum last January 27, but it's February now. His lawyer still didn't apply for his green card. So can we change her, and is that gonna bring some problems? I don't know what what arrangement you have with a lawyer. However, usually asylum is different from applying for a green card. It's always up to you to make sure you're meeting deadlines, you're submitting the applications to get the green card in. So talk to another attorney for sure for a second opinion. I'm still waiting on my case. Yes, so the immigration process, as you can see, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of pausing, delaying. On the back end, they have processes now that are pushing case processing times longer. And it is frustrating, right? Because as they're pushing the case processing times longer, people are suffering, and immigration enforcement is increasing, and the vice is getting tighter and tighter. I understand that for sure. But what I would say is this is where you have to make sure you're pushing forward in any way that you can, the best way you can. Make sure that you are still submitting your applications, you are still meeting deadlines, because where you can lose is where you are not taking, you're not looking at what you qualify for and moving forward with that, right? Because, oh, it takes too long. And the thing is, here's a good example, right? Even under this administration, we are getting approvals for our clients, and our clients applied a year ago, 2 years ago. They applied. And at that time, if they had said, oh, 2 years, that's too long, I'm not going to apply, they would not get that benefit today. And because they stuck it out, they went forward with the solution. Yes, even though it takes hard work on our part, hard work on the client's part, patience, perseverance, sometimes frustration, they're happy now. They're protected now because they took the action. They saw ahead. They saw the long run and they took it. So this is where I say, don't be short-sighted, and don't just think because the cases are paused or because it's taking too long, you're not going to move forward with the process, because other people are leaving you behind, jumping on the opportunities, the legal opportunities they have to gain status here. So just keep that in mind. It's a wait, but just hang on, and be diligent in your case, and be persistent and persevere. That's what we're doing on our end, as we work very hard to make sure our clients' cases are done properly, it's complete, so that we can have a smooth process as we move forward. All right. Can you add additional evidence after you file a VAWA and you have getting a receipt notice? I've done that. Yes, I've done that. The VAWA process takes a while, and there are ways to do it. Now, there are different filing locations now for VAWA cases. So before we just had the Vermont Center. But now there are different filing centers for different, depending on where one resides. So, it gets a little trickier on where you're going to mail that additional evidence. And sometimes it helps to hang on to that additional evidence in case there's a request for evidence. But if it's something that is, and it really comes down to us from a strategic decision-making standpoint, is it going to be useful? Do the officers have to know about this now? Then in that case, we would submit it ASAP. Did interview from September, still waiting. So I would say we're seeing two situations, right? We're seeing one where people are being approved on the spot at the interview, and then we're also seeing those who have to wait a while. And what we are now seeing is they are focusing a lot on fraud. And so if they do have additional questions, they are looking further into for example, if this is a marriage-based case, they're looking further into the marriage-based case. They're looking at the possibility of fraud. They're looking at whether they have to ask for additional information, do additional background checks. And unfortunately, this is, the MO for this administration and the immigration officers that are working under this administration now. Waiting for after the interview does not necessarily mean that your case is denied, but it does mean that they're probably doing additional checks before they make a final decision. Usually, too, if it's taking that long, sometimes a request for evidence may come as well. So it's to look out for that. T visa is applied 6 days ago. Biometrics completed, no EAD till now. Why is it getting delayed? Do we need to wait? And will it not be issued? So I have seen work permits. We have gotten T visa approvals, but yes, it's getting very sluggish. And that's not just with T visas, that's across the board with all immigration cases. But this is where I say just because it's delayed does not mean that you shouldn't be taking action, you shouldn't be applying. And it doesn't mean you should be giving up on your case or that it's that something bad is going to happen with your case or you won't get it. That is just what is happening now. And, it's still the solution, but we have to be vigilant. Do you take VAWA cases that have already been on file and still pending? So what I would say with that situation is if a VAWA case has already been filed, it's already in line for a decision. And it's very hard to jump into a case where everything has already been submitted. However, if you do get a request for evidence and you need help on a request for evidence, that's where we can step in and help. But anything before that, I would say, anything on that, I would say it's hard to jump into the middle of a VAWA case. Are they allowed to extend the time period for new asylum EAD after this new rule in the Federal Register? So we've seen it before. Now, are they allowed to extend the time? Yes, they can extend the time. I have seen them extend the time, but I don't know if they would extend the time. Usually litigation is what makes them extend the time on any kind of policy rules. But yes, they are looking to limit asylum EADs as well. That is a rule that's coming that they are looking to implement soon. So they can extend it. I don't think it would be really within their interest to, unless they are challenged in litigation. How much time is it taking for BFD EAD renewals based on pending U? So it could take anywhere from 6 months to 12 months for a renewal. So what I say is make sure you get on top of it. My friend has overstayed her visa, has a citizen child turning 21 in the fall. How soon can she start the petition process? Right away. As soon as the child turns 21, then they should start the petition process. They can always give us a call and talk it through, but there are certain requirements you need to also make sure that are in place. I had a green card that is expired. My father was already a US citizen. when he filed for my green card and I was a minor. I was told that I'm a US citizen. I need to file. Yes. So we talked about that. Definitely get in touch and let's talk about it. US citizen parent sponsor adult unmarried children priority date 2018 cases. NVC, how long again for green card interviews, and do the US citizen alone have to do their taxes? So it sounds like you're going through consular processing. If the parent is petitioning and they don't make enough income, you can get a co-sponsor as well. So all of that has to be confirmed before you're documented or qualified for an interview. How about you married and your wife is older than you? That can be a red flag. If there is a big age difference of over 10 years, then it can be a red flag. But what I would say is don't make it stop you from moving forward with your life, getting your papers, and moving forward with your spouse. But you need to make sure you're paying attention to the evidence that you have. The evidence is going to be very crucial in overcoming the questions as a result of the age difference. It's over 7 months now. I came in legally, paid for a green card printing. Till now, I have not received my printed green card. What should you do? So 7 months is a long time. Usually to get that green card is usually takes 4 weeks. So if you still haven't received it, then you have your stamp. I would hope they gave you the stamp at the airport, the I-551 stamp, which is usually for a year. You need to apply for a replacement card using an I-90 form. I applied for re-entry in December, but yet to get receipt notice, nor fee has been deducted. What can I do? So if you tracked your package, see if the package was delivered. Also give them a call, see if they can track any receipt notice, see if the receipt notice was sent. You're gonna need to have a lot of information for them to verify, to track your receipt notice, but after asking you all those questions, they can usually tell you whether they sent a receipt notice. If you lose your asylum case and placed on removal, but file your appeal within 30 days, are you still on removal? So while you're appealing, they are going to put a hold on removal. So they want to get through the appeal process first. Keep in mind that they are changing the rules for the appeal process. We have to see if a federal court will reverse that, but they're changing the rules to make it harder to appeal. But what other choice do you have? If the appeal doesn't work, though, you can then go to the federal court and go ahead and file for them to review your case there as well. So that I tried, so your parent was a citizen, then you gained permanent residence and as a minor, and then derive citizenship, but now you're trying to figure out how to get it. I would say if not the passport route, then we definitely need to do the citizenship of the certificate of citizenship. All right, everyone, I'm going to call it a night. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Let's walk with faith. Let's persevere. Let's push through, right? That's what That's what life is about. I know it's hard times, and I know there's a lot going on in immigration, but one thing you should not be doing is counting yourself out. Make sure you're still looking at your legal options, because the legal option is what's going to preserve your ability to defend yourself, to fight your case, to be able to gain status here. In the worst case scenario, the best case scenario is you move forward with a process, you qualify, and you get that benefit. Now we have bans and we have pauses and we have immigrant visa bans. These should not stop you from proceeding with applying, because while yes, these are all policies that seem hopeless, there are possible ways. First of all, some of them are temporary. So you want to hold your place in line. You don't want to lose eligibility. And then the other thing is there are challenges in court right now. And if a court should then lift any of the bans, it means that those who do have their processes in place, who applied, can move forward. So it's about planning for the future, right? Planning for your future and walking with faith. All right. So you can always call us, schedule an appointment to talk about your options. All right. Have a good one. Bye bye.